Welcome to Radio Days with Gary Music Miller. Now here's your co-host, Dave Black. They ain't nothing but hound dogs.
Hello, everyone. Welcome once again to another exciting edition of Radio Days with Gary Music Miller. I'm Dave Black, your co-host. This is Gary Music Miller, longtime voice at WKEE and West Virginia Broadcasting Hall of Famer. We are at the Museum of Radio and Technology doing this program, as always, and their little wing they have over here that has the Hall of Fame inductees in it. See his picture hanging on the wall. He's got one picture like this and one like this. So
That's right.
The other ones are at the post office.
See a lot of TV people
Yeah.
and a lot of radio people. You had no idea what they look like until now. And there are actors. There are singers. Just basically, if you had anything to do with West Virginia Broadcasting, you are in that hall
Right.
some way or another, or you will be.
And we'll run down all the specs on how to get here and where it is and all that stuff at the end. So hang in if you would, and if you need that information. If you've been here before, wonderful. If you come again, wonderful as well. You need to come back and check it out again. So
And subscribe to us,
yes.
please.
So like, share, and subscribe. We would appreciate that. We're going to get going here, and Gary's got all the dope today, so we'll hand it over to him and let him get started.
Okay. Well, we did a show 2 weeks ago, I believe, that for some reason, I can't even remember why at the time, but I brought up two songs that Mark E., not Mark E. Munch, the Funky Bunch, I don't think, but Mark E. over at
Not
X.
Not Biz Markie.
Yeah, right. At X, just a friend.
Don't
Over on X,
start singing like him, please.
I'll try not to.
Okay.
Went over on X, and Mark had written me a letter, not a letter, but a note in the private message section saying how much he enjoyed hearing about two songs that I mentioned last show, Maybe I'm Amazed and Rock and Roll All Night. Maybe I'm Amazed was released in 1970 on McCartney's debut album, and he decided he didn't want it released as a single. About 5-6 years later, he did it live. They recorded him. I think it was in Boston. I'm not sure. They recorded him live. They decided to re-release that version, and it shot to the top of the charts. It's
the best version.
Absolutely best version. The first version is slower. It's the last version you can hear an audience, and they're very definitely live. And this version caught the record label's attention, and they said, you know what, we ought to put this out as a single. Paul agreed. It was put out as a single, and now it's one of the, I think Rolling Stone or VH1 did a top 500 rock songs of all time. And Maybe I'm Amazed came in at something like number 182, but it was the only song by McCartney to make the entire 500 list.
Wow.
Which I thought was amazing. So I also brought up Rock and Roll All Night, which I once played as an accident. I'm not exactly sure how it happened. I had the disc, or I punched it up on the computer, or exactly how it happened. And the studio version of Rock and Roll All Night played. And if you listen to it, there's none of the excitement, none of the pizzazz that the live version later on, that was in 75, I believe. And later on that year, they released a live version of the same song because Paul Stanley and Gene Simmons, who both wrote the song, thought that it captured the energy of what Kiss was all about. And they actually had a couple of dud albums and dud singles prior to Rock and Roll All Night. And Rock and Roll All Night was one that didn't do very well until it was released live. It went, I think, to number 3 on the Billboard Hot 100. It went number 1, number 3, number 5, top 10 all over the world. So that got us thinking, and that got Mark, I believe, Mark E. thinking, and he wrote me a note, and he said, Gary, I was fascinated by the songs that weren't hits when they first came out, but became hits. And that started me. He said, are there any more like that come to your mind? And I said, I'll look into it. And I did. I started researching songs that were hits, but when they were first released, they were not hits. And this is not always by the same artist. One artist might have put a song out and stiffed with it, had a dud, had a bomb. Somebody else came along, did the song, and it exploded. So that's what we're going to base on today. We're going to talk about some songs you may know about, you may not know about. I'm going to start with Simon and Garfunkel, one of my least favorite duos of all time, quite frankly. I didn't really care a whole lot about their music, but they were a little too folksy for me, and I believe that's why Simon and Garfunkel's Sound of Silence, actually, when it was originally released, it was written by Paul Simon. I'm going to be referring to a lot of notes today. It was originally an acoustic version and recorded on Columbia Records in 1964. It did not do anything at all when it was out, if you can believe. Sound of Silence, one of the most recognized songs now, did absolutely nothing upon its first release. Their first album was called Wednesday Morning, 3 a.m. Maybe that's why it didn't do too well. They were sleepy. Without their knowledge, though, Columbia added drums and guitars to the song. The song, it didn't hurt the song was featured in the movie The Graduate. Mrs. Robinson was a huge hit for them. And so this came out somewhat after, probably followed maybe. And it appeared on the Graduate soundtrack, and the second version peaked at number, I think went to number one. Simon and Garfunkel, who first started recording as Tom and Jerry. If you have a Tom and Jerry single by Simon and Garfunkel, you've probably got something worth a lot of money. Red Red Wine by UB40 and or Neil Diamond. Neil Diamond recorded that song and released it. He wrote it, released it in 1967. It was on his second studio album the second studio album by Neil Diamond only went to he recorded a version of Red Red Wine that only went to number 62. Red Red Wine was not a big hit for Neil Diamond. It did somehow go to number one in the UK, and that might be the remix, but everybody pretty much is familiar with the 1988 remix of Red Red Wine by UB40. It was done in a reggae way. It went to number one in the UK. It went to number one in the United States. Went to number one on the Billboard Hot 100. Was a huge hit all over the world. So Neil's original version of Red Red Wine, a song he wrote, didn't do anything. But
am I thinking correctly? Didn't the Pretenders do that also?
They possibly did.
I'm thinking that they did a cover of that, if I'm not mistaken.
They may have. I don't think it was a hit, but they may have done it on an album or as album cut, or they may have tried it. They may have tried it before.
I'm just hearing Chrissie Hynde in my back of my head.
There's nothing wrong with that. Dream On by Aerosmith, and people are going to go, "What's he talking about?" Dream On by Aerosmith from their 1975 debut album, Power. It was a power ballad, noted as one of the biggest power ballads ever. Dream On by Aerosmith, it actually turned out to be their first major hit, but it was released in June 1973 and it peaked at number 59. Dream On by Aerosmith only went to number 59 upon its initial release. Billboard Hot 100 is the source for that. It became a hit in Boston, which I believe is where they're from. It became a hit in 2 or 3 or 4 different other markets who played the original version. The original version was 4 minutes and 28 seconds. And they released that whole thing as a release to radio. And as we've learned in past experiences, most radio stations were looking at records that were 3.5 to 4 minutes. So 4 minutes and 28 seconds seemed a little long, I guess. And it probably didn't have the promotion it needed. But they actually started to have a couple of pretty big rock hits. And Dream On as a power ballad was deemed a little light, a little, lacking in the energy of Aerosmith. So he obviously didn't listen to the end of the song when he goes crazy, when Steve Tyler goes crazy. But the single was released in 1973, like I said, and I believe was it. And then when they released it in 1975, it debuted on the Billboard Hot 100 as at number 76 in January, and it peaked at number 6. Dream On peaked at number 6 on April 18th. And, what can I say? After enough buzz started with Aerosmith, ding, we, is that a call for us?
No.
Okay, all right. Somebody's trying to interrupt us. Dream On wasn't a hit the first time it was out, but the second time they released it, and they released it to radio. I remember this vividly. They had the long version, the 4-minute plus version on one side, and they edited it to 3 minutes and 35 seconds, and they put it on the flip side. So no matter which side was played, it was Dream On. Whether it was the long version or the short version was up to whoever decided to play it. As I said, it was released, both lengths on one single was sent to radio. And that song is so big, it was inducted into the Grammy, I guess, Hall of Fame. The song itself was inducted in 2018.
So they woke up and they sang Dream Off.
They Dream Off. Here's the one that blew me away when I started looking about it. I'm going to say it. Don't spit your water. Suspicious Minds
Like you know.
by Elvis Presley. Suspicious Minds was released in 1968 by a fellow named Mark James. You might wonder, who the heck's Mark James? Mark James wrote Suspicious Minds, and the song was released on Scepter Records. It was, he actually was one of the co-writers. He was a very well-respected writer. He was a co-writer on the song Always on My Mind, which was done by Willie and Elvis and Pet Shop Boys, I believe. It had at least 3 hit versions. It was on Scepter Records. American Sound Studio was based in Memphis, and they asked Mark James to come to Memphis to see if he could come up with anything that might sound like a hit, and it might be a hit for the King. American Sound Studios did very, very well in Memphis. They had just recorded and released a song called The Letter, by the Box Tops, which was a #1 song in 1966, 67, 68, somewhere in that vicinity. And so American Sound Studios asked Mark James if he had a song that he thought Elvis could do. And Elvis had not recorded in Memphis.
Did you have any questions on anything?
No, sir.
No.
Good?
Yeah.
Good to go.
Good.
Okay.
Just
great.
don't lock us in.
Huh?
Just don't lock us in.
I won't do that. I can guarantee you.
Well, we appreciate you.
All right.
We've done this for about 5 years.
Oh, good.
And we're getting ready, I think, to hit our 5th season. This is one of the gentlemen from the Museum of Radio and Technology who dropped in to make sure we were okay. So,
All right. Y'all enjoy.
thank you very much. We do this on YouTube every couple of weeks, and it's amazing the people that work here that don't realize we're on YouTube, and we always publicize
Okay.
the museum.
All right.
So,
Well, enjoy.
well, thank you for coming by and checking on us. We appreciate it. The last place I think I left off was with the letter by the Box Tops, which was recorded by American Sound Studios, and Elvis. They called Elvis in, and they called this Mark James in, and they said, "Mark, do you have anything that might be transferred to the king that Elvis could record and have a hit with?" And as I said, Elvis had not recorded in Memphis since 1955. Mark also wrote Moody Blue. So he became familiar with the king and continued to write songs for him. This is a great story. Elvis loved the song. The people that were with him, whoever happened to be in the Memphis Mafia at that time, whether Colonel Parker was there, and I'm sure Colonel Parker was hanging around somewhere. And all the people wanted to be on this record because they believed in the power of the record. They picked Felton Jarvis, who was one of the Elvis Mafia, I believe, and one of Elvis's dearest friends. They picked him for some reason not to appear on the record, but to produce it. And so, the thing Felton Jarvis did was almost out of jealousy, if you will. He went behind the scenes and produced the record and did all watched them as they recorded the song. They were having such a great time recording this song, Suspicious Minds, which ended up being Elvis's last #1 song, his 14th #1 song. This was the last one. But Felton is in the recording studio recording this song, and they start ending it. "We're caught in a trap, can't walk out because I love you too much, baby." They start repeating that over and over and over again. And Felton said, there's no real reason, but they think it was because he was a little jealous of the fact that he was behind the scenes and would not receive much credit for this song. So he decides about 3.5 minutes into the thing, you know what? I'm done with this. And he turns it down. Turns down everything. Turns down the sound, turns down the recording. Elvis and his group continued singing the song. And they just kept going. They kept going. And Elvis said, "What the hell?" And so Felton decides to turn the volume back up. And everybody complained when they heard the song, "Felton, you ruined the song." But what ended up happening was they released it as it was recorded. And apparently it was a one-take deal for Elvis. Elvis did it one take, and the version that we heard was the version that existed, that became the hit. But when they recorded the song and put it out as a single, they included Felton Jarvis's Fade Out. And then when Felton faded it back up to see what was going on, are you still going on with this song? Felton, the Fade Out is one of the classic fade outs of all time. It may be the ultimate fade out. So when you're playing the song on the radio, a lot of times with the fade out, and it was almost like Felton's getting even with people. People would think the record was over, and they'd fade it out. DJs would fade it out, and it would end. But the DJs that left it running, they heard the fade out, it goes to nothing, and then all of a sudden it builds back up out of nowhere. And I'd always kind of wondered why that happened, and why why did they fade it out? What was the purpose of that? And Felton, I don't think, is with us anymore, but he was never really around to explain what happened. So that's the person by person, down to people version that came out, that Felton just decided to fade the song out, and it came back up and exploded.
That song also has been covered several times.
No doubt, no doubt.
I think the Fine Young Cannibals did that one time, didn't they?
I think they did too. I think they
That'd
did
be like
too.
back in the late 80s.
But I was sticking with the Suspicious Minds, and I hope you have something to write down with and on. And it's worth going back and listening to Mark James. He's on Scepter Records, and he's on YouTube. The 1968 original is almost exactly copied. Even when it's 3/4 time or whatever, and when he goes into "Oh, let our love survive," it slows down. Oh, wipe the tears from your eyes. Don't let a good thing go. I never lie to you. And it slows down, and it goes back up into regular 3/4 or 4/4 time. And Mark James's version of that is exactly the same. Did not include the fade out, but more. So you might just, for history's sake, go back and listen to the 1968 Mark James version of Suspicious Minds. Again, he was the guy that wrote it, and he felt he had the right to release it, and Scepter Records put it out, but I don't believe Scepter had the promotional budget to do a whole lot with.
Right.
So I didn't look up to see what else might have been on Scepter Records, but that in itself is a story for me. Suspicious Minds, who originally did it, how the fade out became part of history, and that whole thing. I just think that's a fascinating thing. I'm going to save that one for last for you. One thing we do, and then if you have a song that you know of that was originally recorded either by the same artist or somebody else, I can never forget Achy Breaky Heart was originally recorded by I don't remember their name, brothers. That song was originally recorded just a few weeks before Billy Ray Cyrus's version, and it was called "Don't Tell My Heart," and it can be found on YouTube as well. And a fellow commented on the Mark James version and said of Suspicious Minds, and he said, no matter how good Elvis is, no matter how great Elvis's version was, in fact, it was the #1 song, but this fellow commented, I always enjoy hearing songs done by the original writers, I enjoy hearing somebody do their own material, and the version is, like I said, it's almost exact. So I would advise you to go listen to what was his name again? Mark James? Yeah, Mark James. And listen to Suspicious Minds by Mark James and see what you think. Let us know down in the comment section, or write us on our email address, which we'll give you in just a few minutes. I always have the unpleasant duty of mentioning people who have passed away recently. And since we did our last show, Dave mentioned, as we did our last show, which was like the third day from the end of the year, we are doing our first show now. This is the first show in 2026, and it's our first show, and probably, I guess, will end up being our fifth season of doing this. He mentioned Cole Carlson, who died at the age of 72, did the definitive version of Everlasting Love. He covered Robert Knight's version, and he put a lot of pizzazz, a lot of power, and it actually bordered on the disco era, and it was played in a lot of disco clubs. It really was. Take it from Mr. Disco Club himself. Michael Littman passed away. He was the manager to David Bowie, George Michael, and Matchbox 20. And Michael passed away at the age of 79 in December, on December 29th, which I think was the day we did our last show, or the day after we did our last show. Chris Rea passed away. Chris Rea, if you are a 70s light rock fan, what's being now called yacht rock, we had a huge hit with this record at WKEE. Chris Rea did a song called Fool, If You Think It's Over. I think If You Think It's Over is in parentheses. Fool, If You Think It's Over peaked at number 18, I believe, in 1978, and he passed away on December 27th. He was, I don't know why I have this date written down. I have December 22nd, 1974 written down, and I don't know why I wrote that down. Maybe that's when the song was originally released. Whatever. When I don't know my own writing, when I don't understand my own writing, it's bad. I have an itch over here, so if you're hearing noise in the microphone. Tony Carr was a drummer for Hot Chocolate. You Sexy Thing. What other Hot Chocolate songs are there? Hot Chocolate had a run. Hot Chocolate had 10 huge, big back-to-back songs in the UK. And they had one or two songs that covered across the...
Everyone's a Winner.
Everyone's a Winner was a good one. And Tony Carr, the drummer for Hot Chocolate, died at the age of 98.
Goodness.
On January 3rd. And Johnny Legend. Johnny Legend was 79 years old when he passed away. He died on January 2nd. Johnny was a recording artist, a musician, and a wrestling manager. And Dave knows more about wrestling than I do, but Johnny Legend had a couple of songs that did pop onto the Hot 100. Like I said, he was a musician and a rockabilly, if you will, musician.
Yeah. He played a part with a song that got airplay on Dr. Demento forever. It was a mainstay on the Dr. Demento show. It was called Pencil Neck Geek, done by Classy Freddie Blassie, who was a pro wrestler for many, many years.
Very good.
And I think he may have helped write the song, or he wrote the song completely. One of the two, but Blassie did it in his spoken word. and it was a mainstay, and it's one of the funniest things you'll ever hear in your life. If you've never heard it, you owe it to yourself if you want to get a good laugh to listen to this thing. One of my favorite lines in the whole song was he said, Blassie said, "I hear these geeks are a dime a dozen. I'm looking for the guy who's supplying the dimes." So that's one of my favorite parts of this song.
Well, he's not to be confused with John Legend.
No.
I don't want anybody to think that he's passed away.
No, not at all.
John's got a few years ahead of him, probably, but Johnny Legend. And that's my coverage of songs that were stiffs, bombs, duds that later became hits. Some with different artists, some with the same artist.
Yeah.
And I had no idea Suspicious Minds was ever released prior to Elvis doing it. But it really is worth going and listening to Mark James's version, because you'll see where Elvis got his inspiration.
Right.
And like I said, he co-wrote Always on My Mind, I believe, and he wrote Moody Blue, which I happen to really, really like that song.
That might have been one of his last chart hits.
That may have, it was definitely one of his last, and probably one that was released after he passed away. And, when Monday comes, she's Tuesday. When Tuesday comes, she's Wednesday. Till another day again. Moody Blue is a great song if you want to hear it. Other than my regular, do you have anything you want to add today? We didn't include you a lot.
Well, it's probably a good thing. Besides our regular information at the end, I'd like to add one thing. A gentleman who is a longtime friend of our program and has he commented galore was David Mills. He's not in good health right now. He's not feeling well, and I'd appreciate if you keep him in your thoughts and prayers and lift him up a little bit. He's not feeling well at all. So, with that said, if you've got anything left, we'll pass it to you.
Just what I would like you to listen to the entire broadcast to hear this at the end of every show. I want to throw in something called "You Gotta Hear This," and one of these days we'll have a placard or something. "You Gotta Hear This" is the song. Really, when I was music director, I was a music director from 1971 all the way to 2009, almost 40 years. And I was music director at WKEE from 1978 to 2009. I spent 31 years as their music director. But when I began music directing, it was back at my very first radio station, WWHY, and it was an AM country station, and the general manager, Dick Husted, and owner, the guy that gave me my first radio job at the age of 16, we would get, when the station changed over to country, we'd continue to get boxes of records in. And part of my job, and the songs that you'll hear from after 1978, was because I had to listen to just about everything that came in as music director and recommend the best songs to my program director, and to then from me to the consultant, and then we decide to put the songs on. The song I'm going to mention today, I've got to mention this song. It dates back to, I think, 1972, was a #1 song in Canada. The group, the duo was huge in Canada. They did go on tour with the Stampeders and with the Guess Who. And they took Canada by storm. And the song is by, oddly enough, Gary and Dave. And it's not us. It's not us.
Thankfully.
But Gary and Dave did a song called "Could You Ever Love Me Again?" Write this down. It's either "Could You Love Me Again" or "Would You Ever Love Me Again?" To me, it's a wonderful pop. It's pure pop. It's pure 70s pop. And I love the song because I actually had to look this up to see if it was a word. Part of the chorus, I guess, they say someday, some way, some when, and they make a word out of some when, somehow, some way, some when. If I let you down, girl, could you ever love me again? So some when rhymes with again. But I didn't realize some when was a word until I looked it up. And I looked it up, and some when is a word. It's never been heard in any other song, I don't think. But in the comments section, or when you write me on X, if you want to send me a personal note, I always answer those. And we have our email address, rdwgmm, easy to remember, Radio Days with Gary Music Miller, @gmail.com. And if you write me at one of those three, either make a comment on the video, make a comment on our email address, or make a comment to me on X. And we will make note of that. Dave and I both check those out, and we will make a comment. And thank you for writing. Please let us know where you are. I'd love to know where you're listening to us from. And I'd love to have you subscribe. There are people with a lot, I don't mean this to sound, whatever the word, egotistical or narcissistic, but there are people that did not play the hit music that we often talk about. I started playing music in 71, started at Key in 78, and I see a lot of other music-related channels where the host was not born till 88 or maybe 92 or 94. So you're actually hearing from the horse's mouth the guy that actually played some of these songs. And I had to listen to a lot of them. And I'm going to be sharing with you gotta hear this. I'm going to be sharing with you some of my favorite songs that did not become hit songs. So I think that's going to be a neat way to wrap up every show, and we'll leave you hanging, make you listen to the end of the song, and at the end of the show, so you can hear that song that I thought was a hit, and you can tell me I'm full of bull, or you can say, you know what, Gary, you're right, that was a good song. So
Okay.
that's all I've got to put in this week.
Well, that usually means we're done for the afternoon.
We should be back with you in a couple of weeks.
Right.
God willing, and our health holds up.
And the creeks don't rise, as they
And
say.
the creeks don't rise.
Remember, we are coming to you from the Museum of Radio and Technology, 1640 Florence Avenue in Huntington. We'll check them out online. It's mrtwv.org. Look them up. Better yet, come out here to the museum and visit physically, because it is a nice place to spend a little time.
Great. We're doing this on a Sunday afternoon, actually, and I think some people are going through, including the guy who we were that worked here.
Our little visitor.
But the studio, this mock studio, you can't see it all, but there's microphone, and there's tape decks, cartridge decks. There's a reel-to-reel machine behind us. This is all stuff that is no longer in use, and makes a perfect display. And you can come back here and see the room that Gary and Dave do Radio Days in every couple of weeks.
If that doesn't excite you, it ought to.
That's right. We're looking for a plaque to be put up here.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think we're finished. Thanks for viewing, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. We appreciate each and every one of you. Those of you who are the old heads that tune in, thank you so much for watching again. And if you're new, thanks for joining us, and we look forward for you to watch us some again.
And if you are new, please think about subscribing, because we always have something, if not more than one topic of interest per show.
Okay. That said, we are done. Thanks for watching, folks. Take care of yourself. God bless. And we'll see you next
Happy New
time.
Year.
So long.